Welcome to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast, hosted by Alison Humphries. The Recruitment Leadership Podcast is here to help those in the recruitment industry gain awareness and understanding on the hot topics faced by those in the business of hiring people. In each episode, Alison Humphries is joined by a fellow expert to offer professional knowledge, insight and advice on the biggest subjects affecting recruitment businesses. It's the podcast to listen to for recruitment business frontrunners seeking expert information from industry-leading advisors. Welcome to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Recruitment Leadership Podcast. I'm Alison Humphries, your host and owner and founder of Recruitment Leadership. And I'm really interested to talk to our guest today. Welcome Matthew Banks. Matthew is Growth Manager at Red Nevada Tech. And I was really interested to make his acquaintance and learn about his tech because guess what? It features artificial intelligence. So that's a very big buzz theme for us all at the moment. And Matthew, also because you have been a recruiter for several years before moving into the tech sales world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the best part of 8 years in a typical 360 role in the technology space before moving to tech side and also worked in some sort of staff augmentation sort of services consulting type background too, but yeah, now recruitment technology.
Right. Okay, so your business focuses entirely on the recruitment community.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, right, so this is going to be actionable, guys. It's going to be really specific, and please, if you haven't put your video on, could you do that to get maximum value, because Matthew's going to give us a short demo later on, and keep going until the end because there'll be an offer available to listeners to this podcast. Now, Matthew, straight in there. In my network of recruitment businesses and recruiters, it's becoming apparent that while recruitment business owners are very excited about the possibilities of AI, a lot of them just have no idea where to start. So give us your advice to those people who have no outreach into AI. What should they prioritise? What are the kind of essential things to get into place?
Yeah, so I think first off, not every business is going to be perfect to implement AI straight away. So I don't think from a business perspective, I think you've got to look at what's important for you, because there's lots of businesses out there, maybe very small on their own, recruiters, boutique sort of agencies that maybe there's certain use cases where they're just not going to get the best value from it. There's certain areas which they are, there's some which there's not. So I think first off, I think it's important to recognize that you don't have to just follow the crowd, because like you say, AI is buzzword at the minute, and so I think what business owners and business recruitment leaders need to do actually is figure out, understand their process, and maybe understand their process in detail of where maybe there might be areas that can add value. So whether it's consultants spending too much time on manual administrative tasks instead of spending time building relationships with candidates and clients, or it could be on the maybe onboarding side of things. If you've got a big trainee model, actually the amount of time it's taking to ramp up consultants to billing and hitting quota, then maybe there's efficiency gains there. So I think it's looking into the different areas of your recruitment processes and your workflows and trying to figure out where maybe you can boost productivity or quality if there is areas. And the reason why I say not for everyone is if you're on your own, you don't have a scaling team, and I suppose you've got your network of candidates and you've got X amount of roles and you're hitting quota and sufficient where you are, and actually you can't necessarily scale certain processes because it might knock it out of tilt in other areas, then I think it's just assessing where it is. But if we're talking teams of people and there's margins to be made in efficiency and also quality of delivery for clients, then definitely look into those. Another area to consider as well, which you did mention there, is actually how you build your value proposition as well around, because it is a buzzword. There are certain areas that actually it may attract new clients. Potentially you don't want to lose clients as well. So actually how you retain customers by increasing the actual service, the resource delivery, the candidates you're putting over, but also the service, the customer service side of things as well. There's lots of different areas, but I guess what it comes down to is what your particular pain might be at the time.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, look, if you be honest with yourself, if you really are a lifestyle business and you're at capacity, now is not the moment, is it? But you're saying if there are efficiencies to be gained. Now, some business owners don't really know if they can be better. What's your advice to them, and what are the red flashing lights that should make them go, oh, I really need to deploy AI here?
Yeah, so I suppose some of the quick wins with AI that you could get is the first one that I mentioned, of actually how much time you're spending on things like writing emails to candidates, how you're sourcing them, encouraging high response rates from candidates when you're headhunting people over social emails, and actually improving your written communication out as well as concentrating on sales. And I think where AI is great is for taking away a lot of the manual administrative tasks that go into recruitment processes. And what we're wanting to do is build something that's a co-pilot and enables you to do more of the human interaction things and take away the things which on a day-to-day might take up your time and your basically valuable time that can be spent speaking to clients and candidates and building relationships.
Right. So basically, if your team are not performing at level of expectation, if they're spending too much time on admin or tapping away when they should be actually in front of clients or on the phone to them, and if there are what should be repetitive messages or routines that are getting missed and therefore leading to missed revenue, all of those are warning signs. I think that summarizes what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's on the efficiency side. And then the other side of it, I think, is start to assess, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners do already, actually, the amount of CVs that you're sending to interviews, placements, and actually there's areas around quality that you can bring AI into as well, whether it's doing more thorough qualifications of candidates at first assessment, or doing things like analysing those interviews, analysing CVs, and building messaging that helps actually sell those candidates into prospective clients and opportunities as well to encourage higher interview rates.
Right. Okay. Now, this was what really attracted my attention when I first came across Red Nevada, is that, yeah, I get it. You know, if it's routine tasks, they can be automated. If it's admin that is required by, perhaps for compliance purposes, but doesn't really add value to the recruitment business owner, then yeah, it can be automated. But what really grabbed me was when you said, okay, but how about we can enhance accuracy, understanding of sector, and improve value to a client. And that, I thought, hang on a minute, this is the stuff that Luddite recruiters, if you will, sweeping statement, this is the kind of stuff that they say, oh, you could never replace a human being here. So when you started talking about quality and value, it got my attention. Before we dive into how your system can help recruiters, I'd just like to think about the world of AI and automation from a client's and candidate's perspective. Now, a lot of recruiters I know do get asked for advice from clients and candidates on, okay, well, I know nothing about this. What should we be doing from our end to get some more advantage? You, the recruiter, seem to be all genned up on this. So taking those two separately, Matthew, can you just describe what advice we should, generally speaking, be giving to candidates and clients?
Yeah, so for candidates, I think it's about improving the CV, grammar in the CV, making sure it's well written, and maybe even nicely designed so that it jumps out amongst plenty of other CVs. From the client side, I think it's making sure you're doing in-depth qualification questions and making personalized bespoke questions for the candidate that you're interviewing, but also using the analysis of interviews and CVs to provide personalized feedback to candidates to improve the candidate experience and your employer branding.
Okay. Oh, gosh, that's an interesting idea. Right. So I know listeners will want to hear some more about that. From the point of view of someone who knows recruitment, as you do, and who's now moved into tech, how do you see AI and automation being used well or badly in the recruitment industry? And it would be really helpful if you can give us some specific examples.
Yeah, so in terms of automation from a negative point of view, I think where you're actually replacing the human side of things, I think it's AI is used great when you're enhancing your productivity and quality, but actually when you're becoming lazy and trying to automate the actual human side of things. And what I mean by that is sending out generic emails to large numbers of people rather than personalizing your headhunting, your sourcing to specific people, or even personalizing your email follow-ups when you've tried to call a client, a prospect, and you're trying to do outreach. Automating that, actually, I think your responses are going to be much higher when you're personalizing. So I think any element where it comes down to the actual human interaction, which we all know a recruiter needs to be involved in and be on calls, and whether it's video, phone, trying to automate that, I think, has a negative impact on the quality of your recruitment ability.
Oh, gosh, yes. And I couldn't agree more. And, regular listeners will hear me on just about every episode despairing about the spray and pray approach that now happens on LinkedIn, because it's just so easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I get constant assurances coming through from strangers telling me that they can solve all my candidate sourcing problems. I don't have a candidate sourcing problem. I don't have candidates.
Yeah.
And they've clearly based their search on two words and not very thoroughly edited it. So it's that mass outreach, which can't be tailored by definition, can it? Or can it? Am I wrong there?
We may get to a point where AI is clever enough to thoroughly personalize, but I don't think so. There's certain nuances in knowing a good candidate, a good client, and actually personalizing your conversations with them based on your experience. And I think if you try and automate that personal human experience, I actually think it's going to have a negative impact on the recruitment industry, and actually you're just going to be getting lower quality recruiters as a whole. I think it's super important to keep that human relationship building, the actual building relationships part of recruitment, as human as possible, because that's where you stand out as a quality recruiter over others, and actually use AI to benefit your productivity and help you become a better recruiter by taking away some of the tasks, but not the human side.
So, for example, a personal referral would always still be a much better approach.
Yeah.
But where it could help you is then making sure that, okay, I didn't get anything from that. So it could help you to remind you to schedule another contact with that person.
Yeah, exactly. Or, maybe if you did want to automate workflows, then you could, the follow-up email saying, did you see this? And, something that's not as personalized. But that initial contact, I think, should always come from you.
And what about good examples of AI and automation that you've seen?
So there's different angles of it. So from a diversity angle, where recruiters are actually trying to help their clients meet diversity goals that their internal talent acquisition and HR teams have, actually they're using AI to build more inclusive adverts, job adverts that are out there, which are engaging a more diverse applicant pool, as well as maybe using AI to help with search engines so that you're actually getting a higher traffic of applications to your job adverts, as well as the part that I mentioned, like analysing CVs, analysing interviews. The analysing CVs is a big part, because as you know, when you come in on maybe a Monday and you've got 200 applications that have come in over the weekend, actually you spend your Monday morning just sifting through CVs, where actually you can use AI to quickly focus on the matched candidates rather than spending time disqualifying people. So you just start speaking to people faster.
If we can harness this AI for greater productivity, I know people will want to say, okay, well, show me specifics, Matthew, show me exactly what you can do. So this might be an appropriate point for you to, to show us the Red Nevada system in action, if that's okay.
So I'll basically run through a quick sort of workflow demo of what we're building. This over time will look different, because we're going to change the interface of it and things like that. But what we've tried to do is go through a work process from a resource delivery standpoint. And so from, let's just take a Java developer, and it is as simple as generating a job description. And now with the skills to include, you may want to include certain areas, but there's lots of scenarios where you don't necessarily get a job spec from clients, and ideally we always want to speak to clients on the phone and take a job brief, but actually they may not have a written job description if it's something new. So what we've done is made it so that you're able to quickly generate a job description, and actually you can get clients to sign off on that, but you also have a piece of material to share with candidates as well when maybe the client's not being able to supply a job description for you.
Okay, so where has your system drawn this from then?
Basically, the AI have different, what they're called, large language models. And our platform, we've basically built it so that it can draw in information from different large language models. So the main one that people might have heard of is ChatGPT. But then there are others, like there's one called Claude, Meta are making some, there's Google Bard, and there's various others that are being built. So what we're actually doing is almost a bit of an aggregator of the different data, building a platform where it feeds in data from lots of different angles, and then we've built code around it to then essentially monitor that, change it, and act as a computer recruiter to build that out.
So if we were to put in Java developer in a month's time, it might actually produce something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so this would not be the exact same every time. And because you may put in different skills of other technologies within that, but also one of the things you can do here is tune it. So you may actually, so for example, if you've got a role in Poland randomly, you could rewrite it in Polish, or if you wanted it to be a bit more informal, you could ask it to change the formality of the output.
Okay, right. Okay, lovely. And so I can see instantly that if I was a real, rookie recruiter, this would be enormously helpful for me to sound credible to my client and to say, so will you want them to do this? Or most clients who recruit these titles want this. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps you exactly that. So a lot of technology, especially, well, all of recruitment, if you're new to it or you're changing sector, picking up the language quickly obviously helps with your credibility. Technology is one of those where there's so many different words and keywords that actually it can be quite difficult to do that. So what we've tried to build is something where it quickly does that. Okay. But also with interview questions and things like that, which I'll show you in a second, so that actually you can start qualifying as if you're an experienced recruiter in that field as well immediately. So the job description forms the basis of a lot of the other functions in the process. So here it's auto filled, and what we can do is generate a role advert then. So I'll just take Red Nevada as an example, but this is quite useful because actually what we start to do is build custom personal adverts depending on the organization. But one of the important things is, as a recruiter, you can actually anonymize that. So if you want to personalize the advert to encourage response rates quickly, but you don't want to generate something that actually gives away client details, you can anonymize that. Here in the text to include it might be things like the benefits package, day rates, or maybe awards that the company has won. You can put 3 different web pages in here, and then what that will do is it will generate an advert that gives you an overview of not just the job description and the details that we've created in the role description but it will also give you an about the business and the industry background, and give you more information on the actual company. And while that's generating there, what you can then do as well with existing adverts is you can generate a diversity and inclusion suggestions. So that's different language thing, and it will give you ideas to do. And then also from a search engine optimization, you can generate suggestions there as well. And what that looks like is more around the technical stuff. So there might be keywords to include, but actually there's also other things like what's called H1 tags and other areas which are a bit more technical. So if you've got somebody building things into a website, into your maybe your careers page, your vacancies page on your website, then actually you can build it so that it drives more web traffic to it as well.
I see. Right, good. Yes, I can see how it's pulled together an advert that actually sells the company as well as the brand.
Exactly. And then it goes into the other things, and just so to give you an idea, I'll just show you the diversity and inclusion suggestions. So this will give you suggestions around statements that you can put in there, and then you'll apply those. And maybe this, to be fair, brings some already into it, but you can apply those. And what this is quite useful for is maybe existing adverts, even to the point of if you wanted to put on your consultative partner hat on, maybe you could use clients' existing adverts and actually give them suggestions on things they could change to their adverts.
Okay.
Just more from that consultative side where you mentioned before of how clients can use AI as well, just to truly add to that partnership piece.
Okay, yeah, great.
And then, there's the search engine things that the more technical things that you can include. Now, the CV analysis, this is when we've got job applications coming in. So what I'll do now is I'll just pick one file here for you, but something that's super important. So you can see a name here, but what we've actually built is a personal identifiable information remover. So for GDPR, what that actually does is when you click anonymize, it removes it. So you only see a name on the front end, but the technology behind it, it's almost like a secure layer, which makes sure that you remove candidate data and things like date of birth and postal address, email address, and it removes them before it actually gets fed into the AI models to analyze the CV.
Excellent. Then, so even unconscious bias, you can just eliminate it in effect.
So that's exactly it. So what we're trying to do is reduce it, but there's 2 sides of it. So for recruiters, so this you can add multiple CVs, and we're actually changing this to a bulk upload as well. So you can put even more CVs in, but essentially, if you wanted to have a second opinion, remove bias, you can take this output. But one of the crucial things is when we spoke about that human interaction piece, is what we don't want this to do is automatically disqualify candidates for you, because there may be a scenario where candidates apply, they're not right for this, they're right for something else. But actually it's how to quickly analyze CVs, take information that you use to talk to the candidates, to buzz them up, to show that you've researched them and their CV before you've called them. You can use it to personalize feedback in a scenario where you don't get feedback from a client. Maybe you can take some of this and build your own bespoke personalized feedback to improve the candidate experience. But yeah, this can also be used actually when you've qualified people, and as well as the interview analysis, which I'll show you, you can actually use this to build into your selling in of candidates to clients that you're recommending to interview as well, to show, again, building that trust in the quality of qualification that you've gone into.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm just looking now on the right hand side of the screen about CV relevance, and I see it says it's 80% relevant, but when I'm looking down that feedback there, I can't see anything that explains why it's not 100% relevant. I can only see 80%. So what would that be based on?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of things. So it takes experience. One of the things that it will rate people on is how recent the experience is. Because one of the things, obviously, you can have people who maybe 3 projects ago have done it, but have been working on completely different technologies since. So that's one of the areas it will take into consideration. It will also, if there was more related technologies in the CV to Java, it would rate higher on that. So if maybe you had a Java developer who's got all the latest and greatest technology that would be in a stack, it would be rated slightly higher. So there's small nuances in it, but 80% is a pretty good match, to be fair.
Okay, right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, this is really bringing it to life, Matthew. So please continue.
Yeah, and so now when we've got candidates that we want to qualify, this is a piece where we start to actually enhance the level of questioning that we're doing with candidates. So here you can choose 5, 10, 15, 20, but your skills questions here are capability questions. Your cultural questions are more soft skills, so scenario-based type questions. But crucially for a recruiter, one of the great things is this skills questions tool, because whether it's a Java developer, a financial controller, it could even be an airline pilot, what it will do, it will actually create the capability, more technical questions to ask that maybe you wouldn't usually be able to ask. And actually you do more of your usual recruitment questions, so understanding, qualifying them, whether they've got other opportunities, figuring out how bought in they are to your opportunity, selling the opportunity. But actually you wouldn't necessarily go into too much detail around the technical. You'd ask questions, but they'd be based off the job description, but actually going into detail around the requirements for the role, it enables you to elevate your qualification, but actually it tells you why you're asking the question and the sorts of answers to look out for. So it's almost a bit of an educational tool as well. But then
my goodness, yes, I can see this would be incredibly useful to develop inexperienced recruiters. And the average client would be very impressed if, when you presented your candidate, you said, well, these were the answers he gave to these questions. I think that it's really easy for clients to sometimes imagine that all we do is say, are you willing to work in this area and for this amount of money?
And so I mean, that's one of the things that what we would love is if we got into a position where actually clients are trusting your questioning ability because you're evidencing the detail that's going into your sourcing and screening process, that actually we get more and more clients. I mean, it's great when we get a client that goes, oh, I don't need to review their CV, just put them straight into interview. But that's not the norm for most recruiters. So actually what we want to do is build the trust up so that more clients are going straight to interview because they've seen the quality of the pre-screen or the first interview stage that's actually gone into the candidates that you're sending over.
Okay.
And then this third section now, which is just generating, is the gap questions. So this will take CV, it will take a role description, it will analyze both, and essentially it will look for any potential skills gaps. And so the reason we've done that is more around, not everybody is perfect at writing a great CV. A career contractor may not put all of the information in. So actually it's how we would maybe identify any small gaps in the CV and generate more questions around them. Now this one now is generating Java questions because I just put in a software tester in there who doesn't have Java experience. So it enables you to dig deeper into those. And if there are any gaps, at least you can mention them up front with the client, and you can be honest about the level of detail in the qualification you've gone and why you're still recommending to interview, having gone through the gaps as well.
Okay. Yeah, love it.
And then interview analysis. So if you do your qualifications on Teams, Google Meet, whatever it might be, what you can actually do is take the transcript of your interview or your qualification call that you've had. You can upload it into the platform, and what that will do is it will analyze the interview, it will analyze how the candidate responded, and then it will give an overview of the relevance on the right here in a second. And now this is where we recommend to use one, to personalize the feedback for candidates, either immediately or when you're saying why you're recommending to interview with the client, or if they've rejected them and you're not getting feedback from the client, actually being able to provide a bit more personalized feedback, because those candidates, it's just nurturing those relationships because they may be suitable for something else. But then on the other side of it is actually we can use this again to really sell in the candidates that we're sending over to clients and why we're recommending that they interview them in big detail. And especially if you're uploading candidates to an ATS, or they're going to a talent acquisition partner before they go into the line manager, actually putting as much detail in your qualification and having it written down on however you present your CVs is super important, because although you may put it in an email to one person, if that's being passed around different stakeholders, actually that might not reach the intended person. So it's making sure all of this is clear and written down so that any stakeholder can see it.
I can totally see that is a game changer if you are facing a portal, or you can only upload a CV and it has to work for you, or you're having to work through a talent acquisition partner. That's a game changer. Now, I can see up there on the screen you've also got a sales and marketing heading, but we are going to run out of time. So
this is the future.
Give us one or two examples of what it could do, if you would.
Yeah, so the future. So you'll see here on the resourcing side, you've got candidate attraction, coding analysis. So this is technical assessment. Candidate summary will be all of the things we've seen built into a report. So basically you're sending over. Candidate attraction will be it will be messaging, a copywriting tool optimizing for different channels. So for direct messaging over WhatsApp, email, or social like LinkedIn, the messaging will be different to encourage high reply rates. And then it can also quickly generate public posts like a LinkedIn post if you put in vacancies out on social media.
Okay.
Now this side will be later down the line, and these are soon, and very soon in the next couple of months. This is further down our product roadmap, and actually what this module will look like is more how we enable recruiters to generate more client relationships, new business relationships, and generate leads, essentially.
Okay, right. So that's next year, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, right. Well, that gets me quite excited, I must say. Thank you for that. Listeners, just to note, I'll repeat this at the end, but if you'd like to learn more, you just need to get in contact directly with Matthew, quoting the Recruitment Leadership Podcast. Now, before we wrap up, Matthew, a couple of other things. This is a bit of a challenge, really. Given that, automation has been around for a long time, if not AI, Why do you think it is actually making individual recruiters less productive, not more? Or are there other factors in play? And to give you some hard stats on this, I know, because in the pre-digital age, we kept paper records, that in my first year in recruitment, I placed 100 people, and they were accountants. It wasn't like blue collar or anything. 100
Mhm.
people. Now that's pretty unthinkable these days. And I was doing it without the benefit of email or internet or wider candidate outreach. So can you explain why at an individual level we're doing less, even though we've got this huge toolkit?
I think it's easier for people to be lazy. And I think people are maybe automating the wrong things, going back to a point earlier about the human interaction and building relationships. Actually, in some cases, you're giving people the opportunity, when we talk about using AI and automation in sales processes and that human interaction side, you're almost giving people an out. And you've probably been in an office environment, and there's maybe somebody on the team where they've come back from lunch and then an hour's passed and have still not picked up the phone or something, and the fear of picking up the phone it gets greater and greater the longer time goes on. I think automating like sales outreach and candidate outreach and things like that to the complete automation point of view just makes that even easier. And I think you've got less and less people who are experts in sales, and actually you have more people managing processes rather than doing the quality recruiter sales that good recruiters do. So it's a difficult one, because I think how do you battle that? I think it comes down to training, in-house culture, and your onboarding of new recruits to make sure they don't go down that way. But it's challenging because
Right.
as the recruitment industry grows and grows, we have to hire more and more trainee recruiters. It's a difficult one to manage.
Yeah, it is really challenging. But I would just, if you are a listener and you're a recruitment business owner, I would urge you to look under the bonnet and see how your staff are actually using all the tech you've given them, because it probably isn't the way you intended it. And then final question, Matthew, what behaviours do you think recruiters need to change or even stop to thrive in the new revolution 4?
I think maybe changing your view on the new era of technology and everything. We may have people listening who are not interested. They've done it one way for a long period of time, and that's been successful, and I think that's perfect, and you should keep true to what works for you. But I think you should also have an open mind to change as well, because I think right now, over the next 2 to 3 years, I think what recruitment looks like is going to drastically change in terms of internal technology stacks, processes, everything. And I think we are in a position where people are going to be forced to adopt certain changes, I think, as traditional recruitment probably changes. Recruitment's not changed by and large in decades, apart from the fact that it's got harder to place 100 people in your first year. So it's I think keep true to the traditional values of building relationships and the human side, but look at alternative ways that you can do the process side.
But what this system like yours should do, as you say, is actually improve the quality of the evaluation part, the candidate evaluation, which I really like. But used properly, automation and AI should free up more time for in-person contact, shouldn't it? Okay. And there, unfortunately, we have to stop it. So before we do, Matthew, how should people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my email is matthew.banks@rednevada.ai, and Matthew is with 2 T's. Or on LinkedIn, Matthew Banks, send me a direct message, literally mention this podcast, and I'll sort you out with a month's free trial if you want to use it.
Okay, so I hope that many listeners are going to take advantage, because this could be their first foray into the use of AI. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to have you as a guest. And listeners, thank you very much for joining the Recruitment Leadership Podcast again. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, review and share so that others can find the podcast too. We really appreciate your support. If you have any questions about the topics covered or wish to find out more about recruitment leadership, please email alison@recruitmentleadership.co.uk referencing the podcast. We're also on LinkedIn, where you can follow Recruitment Leadership and connect with Alison Humphries. Thank you for listening, and we hope you join us next time for another episode of the Recruitment Leadership Podcast.